The entire underground mausoleum was dark, permeated with a cold breath, and the air breathed into the lungs here had a decadent breath. I don't know how long I walked, and a bright light gradually appeared in the front. Nico Robin quickened her pace, and the invisible pressure surrounding her made her unhappy. Finally free. Nico Robin took the lead to walk out of the underground tunnel. She opened her arms to embrace the sun, and a hint of infatuation appeared on her fair and pretty face. She has never felt the sunshine so kind. Yo. At this time, a strange voice rang in his ears. Is this sick, hun? Who do you want to hold? A cynical voice sounded. Nico Robin suddenly looked back. In the desert behind him, a man was sitting underground, looking at himself with penetrating eyes. For some reason, this thief's gaze made her feel like she was not wearing clothes, and all the secrets were exposed under the other's eyes. Father. Cobra also followed Nico Robin out of the underground king's tomb, and Vivi burst into tears. Ikarim was also in tears. Your Majesty the King. Tears come just as you say it is. It's a waste of talent for you not to play the crying scene. Miller spit out with a slanted mouth. The duplicator Miller. After Nico Robin saw Miller, his pretty face immediately sank, and his hands subconsciously grasped his backpack. She regretted it at the moment, and knew that Pluton's whereabouts should not have been translated. She didn't want to tell Crocodile of Pluton's whereabouts, nor did she want Pluton to fall into Miller's hands. In Nico Robin's subconscious mind, there is no good thing about pirates, even if she is a pirate herself, especially a pirate like Miller who offers 1.5 billion rewards, it is even more lawless. In fact, since Miller's debut, the people killed are all enemies, and he really didn't kill innocent people indiscriminately. Why are you so nervous? Miller looked at Robin with a smile, touched his chin and smiled strangely. Even the clothes are sweaty. Robin wore a light pink suspender. After his sweaty clothes, they almost stuck to his skin. Miller feasted his eyes. It's a little unrealistic as in the rumors. Nico Robin is very eccentric. The 1.5 billion pirates are reasonably strong. In her vision, they should be cruel, self-assured, and have an ambition to dominate the sea, but from Miller can't feel that spirit. To put it ugly, Miller gave her the feeling that she was a rascal who was running a train with his mouth full. It's like a little bastard. This is Robin's true evaluation of Miller. No. Miller shook his fingers and solemnly emphasized, remove the fine print. The character small should not describe a man. Even a silly person is better than a small person. This guy's brain circuit is also quite strange. Hearing this, Nico Robin was also dumbfounded. Miller and others always think differently. However, unknowingly, Miller also changed Nico Robin's perception. This guy is at least not as cruel as described in the newspapers. In order to keep the world away from Miller, Marine made him black like a monster. I don't know if it's my illusion or I'm overly narcissistic. I don't think you came to kill me. Nico Robin stared directly at Miller. Your instincts are very accurate. What a shame that a beautiful woman killed a child. Even though you were a member of the Crocodile Gang, didn't you give up in the dark at the last moment? Miller dangled his cigarette and rolled his eyes. Pluton, you found it, right? When these words fell, Nico Robin's expression suddenly changed, and he was taken aback. This guy is still a careerist. Don't worry, Pluton doesn't do much to me. First of all, I can't copy it, and secondly, I don't have the ambition to compete for world hegemony. Miller spit out the smoke ring and slowly said, would you like to get on my ship? I want to say what happens when I refuse. Nico Robin asked with his fist clenched, you will kill me directly? Hey. You doubt my character as a human being. Didn't I say that? I am definitely not going to deal with beautiful cuties. Miller emphasized displeased ly. Nico Robin, the first time I see you, I will make you a friend. Miller turned into that scumbag again. Would you like to be my girlfriend? This is the first time we have met, so you let me be your girlfriend. Nico Robin was also drunk. What's the matter? Miller curled his lips, turned his head and looked at Robin again. This is the second side. Nico Robin was really thundered. She is the son of the devil that everyone is afraid to avoid. If you have anything to do with me, the world government and Marine will look at you. Haha. It's okay. I like a stimulating life. I don't want to tell you anything. I really want them to trouble me. And, Miller changed the conversation and pointed to the sky and said, don't you like to study the historical text? My next stop is Sky Island. There is also a historical text there. It is too difficult to get there depending on your abilities. Would you like to take a downwind boat? Miller sent out an invitation. He really didn't intend to use Robin, he just fell in love with her. In addition, There is a guy called Enel on Sky Island. He is Logia's thunderfruit capable person. This is an extremely powerful devil fruit. In Logia devil fruit, thunderfruit is definitely among the top ones. Such a good thing, Miller really has no reason to let it go. If you don't go with you, you shouldn't let it go. Nico Robin stared at Miller closely. Ha ha ha. Miller laughed evilly at the corner of his mouth. I can only say that I am not a good person. Don't forget, I am a pirate. Sometimes turning my face can be a momentary response. I see, Nico Robin sighed. She looked at the blue sky and shook her head. I will be taken care of in the future. With his arms stretched out of his thighs, Nico Robin finally compromised. After solving the trivial matters of the Baroque workshop, the group returned to the Alabasta Palace. The kingdom's rebellion ended, and Vivi came back safely. Double happiness came, and Cobra specially set a state banquet to entertain Miller. In fact, Cobra is willing to go out, if the world government knows that the pirates are treated so solemnly. Maybe Alabasta will be kicked out of the world government's franchise. Master Miller, I toast you. At the banquet, Cobra raised his glass respectfully in a complimentary manner. After this incident, Cobra understood that he, the so-called king, was a fart in front of top powerhouses. My father-in-law is serious. Miller chuckled and drank the spirits in his glass. Hearing Miller's name, Cobra's expression froze and he looked at Vivi, and the latter moved his eyes away as if he had done something invisible. Cobra is not stupid, he immediately understood something. Sorry, Vivi, I wronged you. Cobra was ashamed. This was his only daughter. In order to save Alabasta and himself, Vivi sacrificed his happiness. His father is very dull. Eat and eat. Miller began to feast. Not only he attended the banquet, Bartolomeo and Nico Robin who had just joined in also participated. After the banquet, everyone went back, and Cobra went to deal with the bad national conditions. As for Vivi, then went back to rest. She hasn't had a good night's sleep during the recent period. Of course, Miller also followed. Want to rest? In any case, you have to feed Miller. Naval headquarters have many marlins. The replica Miller appeared in Alabasta. Sengoku saw the information sent by Alabasta, and his expression was particularly solemn. Crocodile, one of the 7 warlords of the sea, was also defeated, and his ability was also copied. Miller is such a daunting character, it's hard to beat him. Garp grumbled along with a headache. The loss of a Shichibukai will inevitably affect the situation of the sea. Sengoku stared at the ceiling blankly, his old face very helpless. If it's anyone else, Marine can send someone to crusade. But what Miller said. Marine don't say take the initiative to attack. Marine can't wait to never meet. That guy is too dangerous, whoever fights with him will be copied. Sengoku is now afraid to dispatch Admiral to destroy Miller. If all of Marine's 3 Admiral abilities appear on one person, who else can control Miller in the future? If you leave it alone, it will not be good for our Marine, and it will be criticized. Kizaru sat on the sofa, cutting his nails in all kinds of boredom. Because of Crocodile, Alabasta is already extremely dissatisfied with Marine. Aokiji added. I have a good proposal. Crane Vice Admiral's old face swept up with a curve. Although she was more than 70 years old, her eyes were still bright. Marine has always played a resourceful role. The defeat of Crocodile also proves that he is not qualified to serve as Shichibukai. One less Shichibukai will have an impact on the world situation. We must find a suitable candidate to supplement it. Since Marine doesn't want to offend Miller the Replicator, isn't this opportunity here? Many Marine leaders are not stupid, and Sengoku understood the intention of Vice Admiral Crane for the first time. Suru, you mean to hire that guy as Shichibukai? Sengoku's eyes lit up. The conditions for becoming Shichibukai are simple, strong strength and unparalleled influence. In terms of strength, there is no doubt that Miller definitely has it. As for influence, some boring people even compare Miller with 4 emperors, and the reputation is naturally not bad. That guy is very dangerous. The old man recommends to get rid of it as soon as possible. The snowball is getting bigger and bigger, Akainu said hoarsely. Then you can try, Sakazuki. Aokiji responded indifferently, you have to be careful not to be copied by that guy. Crocodile, Paluzolino, and Smoker are all examples. If the ability is copied, it will be hurt by that guy, it would be very embarrassing. The entire Marine executives knew that Admiral Aokiji and Akainu's relationship was not very harmonious. The Royal Palace of Alabasta. Miller rested in Vivi's bedroom all night, and then left vigorously the next day. As for Vivi, it is estimated that it will take a full day's rest. For girls, the body is inherently weak, and rest is normal. Early in the morning, Miller was walking alone in the palace, walking around casually. It's like arriving at my own home. For the current Miller, isn't Cobra just Vivi's daughter? Isn't Alabasta's palace his new home? Master Miller. Suddenly a team of guards ran over, and it was Ikarim who took the lead. He is now reinstated and he is still the captain of the palace guard. Your Majesty, please. Ikarim was very respectful, even though he was very disgusted with the bastard who had robbed Princess Vivi. But there was no way, he stopped it and it was useless. After all, the raw rice was cooked. 10 minutes later, the chamber. With a creak, the door was pushed open. Miller walked in swaggeringly. Not only Cobra, but Nico Robin was greeted. Congratulations. Nico Robin's pretty face was full of a faint smile. You have successfully stepped on Crocodile and went one step further. A little Shichibukai, he deserves to be my stepping stone. Miller looked contemptuous, but he asked curiously, where does the joy come from? Marshal Sengoku from Marine Headquarters called. Cobra said truthfully, they are about Lord Miller. Stop it. From now on, I'll call me Miller. Miller stopped Cobra in time. This is his old man. The screams of the adults are always very harsh. I see, Miller. Cobra also did not hypocritically explained. Sengoku from Marine Headquarters called. They have cancelled Crocodile's Shichibukai and hope you will replace Crocodile as the new Shichibukai. Hearing that, Miller's pupils dilated a little, and he was surprised. Let me be Shichibukai? Isn't this just stepping on Crocodile and flying into the sky? He is also very poor. Nico Robin also sympathized with the old boss. The Alabasta plan has been implemented for several years, but Mao's benefits have not been reaped. The sand fruit was first copied by Miller, then brutally beaten, and is still being held in Alabasta's prison. Right now. Even the title of Shichibukai has been abolished. What does Master Captain think? Nico Robin's beautiful eyes flashed. I'm not interested in shit Shichibukai. Those goddamn Marines have exposed all my replication ability and hockey. Lousy hasn't settled accounts with them yet. Please me now? It's too late. Miller waved his hand and said with a sneer. Besides, Shichibukai is not just a running dog of the world government, it has the use of wool. The government will give us benefits accordingly, and will not arrest us in the future. Nico Robin reminded. Haha. I'm staying at Alabasta, will Marine dare to come? Miller was full of disdain. Rumble. At the same time, a loud noise suddenly came from somewhere in the royal capital, and then a huge fireball rose into the sky. Little ones, kill me, and those who dare to resist us don't stay alive. On the streets of the royal capital, Blackbeard led his little brothers to wreak havoc. Marine's smoker group. Dot had been defeated by Blackbeard effortlessly. Next, his goal was Miller. The uncle who copied the fruit, only I, Uncle Teach, can be worthy of such a powerful ability. Blackbeard waved his arms ambitiously. In fact, Miller is quite painful. Everyone in the world thinks he has some copy fruits, which is completely nonsense. In history, there has never been a copy fruit. This is just the ability of the system, which has been misunderstood as a copy fruit by countless people. Captain, Miller helped the king of Alabasta settle the riots. I heard that he was treated to a banquet in the palace yesterday. The dog-headed army officer Rafit stood up and said, pointing to the distant palace by the way, which was obviously Miller's base. It just defeated Crocodile. Blackbeard roared angrily, little ones, kill towards the palace. The group of them was intact and walked towards the palace of Alabasta with their heads high, and no one was injured. Smoker is good, especially armament hockey and observation hockey were awakened after the battle with Miller, but it was a far cry from encountering Blackbeard, a future 4 Emperors level powerhouse. It's not good, Lord King, a pirate has invaded the capital. Cobra immediately received the report from the soldiers, and he collapsed on the throne. What the hell did Alabasta do? He just solved Crocodile, and now there are other pirates. Cobra looked desperate, but not long after, he immediately thought of someone. Hurry up and invite Miller. By the way, which pirate is it? Cobra asked again. Marshal D. Teach, the guy who appeared in the newspaper a while ago, he betrayed the Whitebeard pirates. The soldiers report honestly. What? Cobra's body trembled fiercely, and his heart was cold. It was Shichibukai before, but now there is another character from the 4 Emperors group? Heaven. Why tortured Alabasta like this? Only Miller can save Alabasta at this time. Cobra could only put bow on Miller. The enemy was coming fiercely, but it was Blackbeard who killed the Whitebeard pirate team leader. Just hearing the origins, Cobra's legs became weak with fright. What Cobra didn't know was that he didn't need to greet him, Miller had already gone to meet him. And, ha ha ha, I love you so much, Blackbeard. Miller stood on the castle of the palace, watching the Blackbeard group raging on the street, and shouted in excitement. Dark fruit, known as the most vicious fruit in history, how could Miller not be tempted? As that guy demented, Lousy came to take his head, is he so happy? Blackbeard had seen Miller from a long distance. Not only was Miller not afraid, but he was also afraid that Blackbeard couldn't see him. Holding a piece of clothing in his hand, he kept spinning and shouted, Teach, I'm here. Come here. Boss, he doesn't seem to understand why we are here, Burgess said with a glance at Blackbeard. GG, doesn't he understand right away, young ones, kill it. Several people from Blackbeard rushed over in broad daylight, no wonder they were so arrogant, no one in Alabasta was their opponent. Marshal D. Teach, the wanted man in the Whitebeard Pirates. I don't know when it will start, Nico Robin has already appeared next to Miller. A solemn color appeared on her delicate and pretty face, the enemy should not be underestimated, I think it is still. Huh. Miller was not in the mood to listen to Robin's nonsense, he turned into a flash and threw out, falling under the palace wall. The Blackbeard group also came. Now his wings are not full, only Burgess, Van Oka, Poison Q, Rafet and other 4 under his team. GG haha, Blackbeard smiled madly, Miller also laughed ha 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 in his mouth. Lousy, just say it straight, my uncle is here today to take your abilities. Blackbeard's eyes flashed green, and the covetousness in his heart could no longer be concealed at this moment. What a coincidence, Lousy has the same plan. Miller's mouth was dripping, and every time he encountered the powerful devil fruit, he was extremely excited. What made him overjoyed the most was that Blackbeard, a silly fork, was not as a thief as everyone else. Most of the pirates saw Miller and F*K waves, as if they had hit a broomstar, and they were running at a speed that could catch up with his sparkling fruit. Come on, Teach, you do it first, despite the attack, I beg you to plunder this uncle's ability. Miller held up his palm and promised, I promise not to fight back. Miller's strange behavior made the rest of the Blackbeard pirates quite alert. Captain, don't believe this guy's nonsense, he is 1.5 billion Baileys. Oh no, the reward is high again. Van Oka took out the latest reward order, after defeating Crocodile, this guy has grown another 100 million Baileys. In other words, Miller's current reward is 1.6 billion Baileys. He probably pretended to be like this on purpose to let us relax, Captain Teach. Rafet also followed to help and said, don't be careless. You two dogs, what nonsense. Miller's mentality suddenly exploded. He really had no intention of playing tricks, and proactively stretched out his neck, you just come. I promise not to fight back. Is this guy an idiot? Blackbeard also suspected Miller was swindling, because normal people would not be like this. Boom. Van Oka was the first to shoot. This guy deserves to be one of the best snipers. The one covering armament hockey directly hit Miller's eyebrows. Damn it. Miller's forehead was like an iron bump, and the bullet flew away. It's okay not to do it. With this, Miller was irritated, and the cold all over his body erupted like a flood. He made Blackbeard attack because the opponent had dark fruit. But this Van Oka, he is just a sniper, he doesn't have the ability to fart, and there is no bright spot in hockey. Miller, who didn't get any benefit from the shot, suddenly went crazy. Huh. He turned into a flash, and instantly rushed to Van Oka's side, kicking his head covered with flashing big feet, kick at the speed of light. Boom. The speed of light was so fast that Van Oka hadn't reacted yet, and a mighty heavy foot hit his head, and this guy sprayed old blood on the spot. The body was kicked hundreds of meters away, smashing a large number of buildings. Van Oka was buried deep in the ruins, and he could no longer stand up. He simply annihilated his consciousness with a simple kick. Burgess saw his companion being kicked, and immediately jumped up. The hard fist slammed directly at Miller. Boom. His fist hadn't gotten close to Miller, and a green barrier stood in front of him. Burgess' eyes were full of consternation. What the hell, so strong? With a fist, he didn't move. Forget it. You can't say it. Hockey has no bright spots, there is no need to copy. Miller squinted at Burgess, the disdain in his eyes unconcealed. The sick horse that Poison Q was riding suddenly opened his mouth at this moment, and a purple mist erupted. Miller snapped his fingers when he saw it, and a desert storm spread away, and the poisonous mist in front of him was blown away with Poisonous Q. After being swallowed by the desert storm, Poison Q still screamed, and a lot of scars appeared on his body. Laser. Miller pointed his finger at Burgess, and a gleam of light swept through. Don't underestimate Uncle Burgess. Burgess crossed his arms to defend, and his arms were wrapped around armament hockey. Pouch. Although Burgess hockey was of a certain level, his arm was pierced by light. Burgess screamed again and again, and the light exploded with a bang. Burgess was also blown up. Little ones, get out of the way, you are not this guy's opponent. Blackbeard saw that the boys were overcome by overwhelming power. They were both shocked and a little excited. This copy of the fruit is really amazing. Miller showed several kinds of devil fruit in a short while. Barrier fruit, sand fruit, sparkling fruit. If a person possesses multiple devil fruit abilities, his attack patterns will naturally increase. I will solve him. Blackbeard snarled, raging in darkness, staring at Miller grimly. Miller also gave up attacking others. Let's let go, teach. Lousy knows what you want to do. Do you intend to copy my abilities? Blackbeard said with a gloomy sneer. But I'm really sorry, dark fruit is more special than other devil fruits. Once I catch you, your copy of the fruit will be useless. One of the most heaven-defying aspects of dark fruit is that once a capable person is captured, no matter what kind of devil fruit it looks like, it will temporarily use its effect. This is the source of Blackbeard's confidence. As long as he catches Miller, the duplication fruit of this guy will be useless. How to duplicate his ability? Dark water. Thick darkness erupted from Blackbeard's palm, and the entire palm was covered. At the same time, Miller instantly felt a huge gravitational force covering him, and his body lost his balance. Come over. Blackbeard screamed, and Miller flew over with a slur. His big hand locked Miller's throat like an eagle's claw. Gee ha ha ha, that's it, you can try to copy my ability now, can't you? Blackbeard laughed wildly, and with just a little effort, he could crush Miller's neck. Miller's pupils solidified, his whole body radiated, and Sparkling Fruit's ability was activated again. But Blackbeard was like an invisible black hole, and Miller's light quickly dissipated. Dark fruit is the natural enemy of the capable person. Once captured by Blackbeard, the ability cannot be activated, and the ability of the flash fruit is forcibly absorbed. Go to hell. Blackbeard's fist covering armament hockey hit Miller's forehead. Boom. When the punch fell, Miller flew out suddenly, and he knocked out a hole in the outer wall of the palace. Gee ha ha. What a copyist, how powerful it is in front of me is useless. Blackbeard looked up to the sky and laughed wildly, very proud. But under the ruins, Miller lay on the ground. The power of Blackbeard's punch was indeed not bad, his head was dumbfounded. Dark fruit ability Martial D Teach has been captured, and now I will start copying 1%, 50%, and 100%. After copying is complete, congratulations to the host for obtaining Blackbeard's dark fruit. The capture of armament hockey and the carrier of observation hockey, Martial D Teach, has been completed, and now it is starting to replicate 1%, 50%, and 100%. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Blackbeard's observation hockey and armament hockey. Black Martial D Teach, the carrier of the alien physique, has been captured, and now starts to copy 1%, 50%, and 100%. The alien physique has been copied. Congratulations to the host for acquiring the alien physique of Blackbeard. There was a series of voices in his mind, and Miller heard this for a while. Not only Blackbeard's dark fruit and hockey, but even his unique alien traits can be copied? Because of the special relationship of the body structure, Blackbeard is a double fruit ability person, and there is one of the strangest places, he can even transfer the enemy's abilities to his own. Miller has now copied this alien physique, which is equivalent to possessing the same means as Blackbeard. You are such a wonderful person, Teach. Under the ruins, Miller seemed to be beaten with blood, and his voice revealed endless ecstasy. Boom boom boom. The ruins quivered, and Miller burst out with a strong wave of power. The dark fog rushed up along the gap, and even the sky was covered. This. When Blackbeard saw this, his mouth opened wide, enough to squeeze a fist. He copied my dark fruit? Blackbeard screamed, as if shocked, very ear-piercing. Impossible, he was caught by dark fruit, the duplicate fruit should be invalid. Blackbeard shook his head vigorously, seemingly reluctant to admit it. Everyone does not want to have a copy of themselves, and the ability is the same. Especially for Blackbeard, it is extremely difficult to accept. His dark fruit can suppress the fruit of others. Why can Miller fail? Boom. A loud noise fell, and the ruins of Miller's body were shattered, and he stood up from the ground intact. You idiot. Who told you I have duplicated fruits? There is no such kind of devil fruit in the world. It was just a blind analysis by Marine. I have never eaten devil fruit. Miller rubbed his head, looked at Blackbeard and said, the show is about to begin. Miller followed the same trick of Blackbeard, with a thick black mist coming out of his big hand, dark water. A tyrannical black mist erupted from his palm, and Blackbeard immediately felt caught by a dense gravitational force, and flew towards Miller with a swish of his body. At the same time, Miller's right foot flashed and condensed, and he swept out, kick at the speed of light. Rumble. This foot accurately landed on Blackbeard's face, his face clicked, and Miller's right cheek was kicked to pieces. Blackbeard clutched his cheeks and screamed, dark fruit is extremely powerful, but there is a fatal weakness, double pain. The guy Blackbeard had tears in his sore eyes. You bastard angered my uncle. Blackbeard got up from the ground embarrassedly, his arms raised, and his slap facing the sky, the Dark Emperor. A large amount of black mist penetrated from the palm, and a huge black sphere took shape in the blink of an eye. Immediately afterwards, Blackbeard threw hard, and the pitch-black giant ball flew towards Miller. Small bugs. Miller sneered. His attack was not as singular as Blackbeard, after all, he had the power of multiple devil fruits. Snapped. He snapped his fingers easily, and an emerald-colored barrier appeared in front of him. The length is 30 meters, and the width is almost 30 meters. My God, is this the strength of the Miller boss? Bartolomeo hiding behind was dumbfounded. Miller copied him from the barrier fruit, but the area of his barrier is not as exaggerated as Miller. Boom. A loud noise spread, the black ball hit the barrier, the entire interface suddenly tilted, and the creaking kept on. Broken. Blackbeard yelled with blue veins in his forehead. Under his control, the black ball spins away like a top, and the huge friction makes the entire barrier sway, but it just doesn't break open. Far stronger than Blackbeard imagined. After a stalemate for a moment, the black ball banged and exploded, and the destructive force hit the barrier fruit without breaking it. It's my turn. Miller also raised his arm, dark erupting in his palm, and a large black ball condensed above his head. Guru. Blackbeard's throat choked when he saw it, and he stared blankly, already knowing what Miller was going to use. The Dark Emperor. Miller threw his right arm forward, and the huge black sphere hit Blackbeard directly. This damn guy. Seeing that Blackbeard yelled at him, Miller could resist the fruit, but what did he expect? Go for melee. As Blackbeard thought about it, the black ball had swallowed him. Blackbeard's whole body was sucked into the black ball, including the little brothers he brought, were all absorbed in, and the screams kept screaming. The extremely dense gravitational force tore their bodies, even if they covered armament hockey's defense, their bodies were torn out with shocking scars. Boom. After 10 seconds or so, the black ball burst and opened, and the huge king was shocked. On the ground, Blackbeard and his partner lay half dead on the ground, and everyone's face was full of fear and panic. Blackbeard is extremely miserable, all his clothes are torn to pieces, and he is currently naked. 5-6 paths wounds were torn out on his stomach, and the wounds were uneven, as if they were bitten by a wild beast. Blackbeard gasped, staring at Miller with an ultimate crazy look. It shouldn't be, the man who left red-haired Shanks's eyes with scars. Miller touched his chin and stared at Miller with a scrutinizing gaze. In this world, if he has to find the person he can't see through, Blackbeard is definitely one of them. This guy is full of secrets, and where does that unique body structure come from? The cold light condensed in Blackbeard's 2 eyes was about to materialize, and the ground around his feet also burst out of black mist. With Blackbeard as the center, the dark dense fog continues to spread. The palace and the streets were swallowed up by darkness, and the darkness rushed like drinking water. The darkness that moved around was like sulfuric acid, and everything you touched was wiped out. Even a house would collapse like Kuchiki. Finally looks a little bit. Miller stared at Blackbeard lightly. Lousy will make you regret saying this. Blackbeard's biting eyes were extremely cruel, and since dark fruit had been copied, he had nothing to worry about. The power is displayed to the greatest extent. Dark Giant. Blackbeard gave an order, and the thick fog rushing around all poured into his body. He was swallowed by the boundless darkness, and a dark giant gradually rose. He was nearly 10 feet tall, and there was an unknown dark aura flowing throughout his body. Die. Blackbeard's voice came from the giant's body, and then the soles of the giant's feet stepped mercilessly. Miller released the barrier fruit in an orderly manner. Bang. The dark giant stepped on the barrier with 1 foot, and the power was unpredictable, and a large number of cracks appeared on the impenetrable surface. The power of this kick. Miller was shocked, and it was a miracle that the barrier fruit was broken. Now Blackbeard is finally serious. Boom. With a clear sound falling, Miller's defense barrier shattered like a mirror. The heavy foot finally fell on Miller. Boom. The ground trembled fiercely, and Miller was finally stepped on by the dark giant. Master Miller. Boss Miller. Vivi and Bartolomeo who came here were all worried. This kind of battle. They couldn't participate at all, and Blackbeard's strength surpassed the previous crocodile. How does it feel to be trampled to death as a cockroach? Hidden in the darkness, Blackbeard laughed wildly, and for fear that he would not be able to kill Miller, he deliberately rubbed against the ground a few times, and he wanted to trample Miller into a burst. Almost. After a while, Blackbeard moved his big feet away, and footprints several meters deep appeared on the ground. Miller was lying in it, and unlike Blackbeard's imagination, there were no wounds on his body. The power of this kick is really good. Miller got up, patted the dust on his body, and immediately smirked. Thank you for your development. This trick is now Lousy's. Miller also spewed out terrifying darkness, like a flood, and his body quickly condensed into a dark giant of more than 10 feet. This fool who can only copy. Blackbeard shivered at the sight. Damn, you can copy it. Why do you have to use the same tricks as me? Who said Lousy copied you? Miller, hiding in the darkness, sneered, and a flash of light erupted from the dark giant's hand. This is the shining fruit of Kizaru. Nico Robin recognized the ability of the fruit at a glance. Marine Admiral's devil fruit. The recognition was too high. Only 2 or 3 seconds later, the dark giant released by Miller held a slender and sharp flashing sword in his hand. You don't have this, right? The flashing sword pointed at Blackbeard, and Miller's yin and yang voice followed. Blackbeard's face was dark as if it were a black pot. This. He really didn't. Huh. A burst of golden light swept across, the dark giant swept out his arms, and the flashing sword in his hand also slammed towards Blackbeard. Blackbeard hurriedly controlled the dark giant to retreat, and a burning edge swept across his neck. 20 rounds of flowers. A large number of arms sprang out from the ground, like chains, binding the dark giant layer by layer. Damn, I can't move. Blackbeard's face turned green. What kind of broken power is this F*K? This is my flower fruit. Nico Robin reluctantly covered his cheek. That's right. Miller didn't even let off his so-called girlfriend, and his abilities were also copied. Huh. The laser sword swept again, and the hot edge rushed to the dark giant's head. Blackbeard panicked, his feet tied up by a large number of arms, unable to move. In a panic, he controlled the giant to raise his arm to defend. Pouch. As if cutting vegetables, the laser sword swept from the side, cut off the dark arm, and slammed toward the head unstoppably. Shit. The dazzling blade passed by the neck, and the head of the dark giant flew into the sky, and a large amount of darkness spread wildly along the gap in the neck. The giant shriveled in a few seconds. Seeing this, Miller ignored Blackbeard's fear, raised his big feet, and stepped on coldly. Boom. Blackbeard was also ruthlessly stepped on his feet. Miller would be retributed. He also followed Blackbeard's posture and twisted a few times. The kid screamed and screamed. You just seemed to ask me how I feel. I'm sorry, I am immortal, I don't feel anything. Teach. I want to ask how you feel now. When Miller moved away the dark giant feet, Blackbeard lay miserably among the footprints, bleeding in many places. The belly also shriveled, and the bones in some places were crushed. It hurts lousy. Blackbeard twitched to and fro, and as he swayed sharply, blood overflowed from the wound again. Vivi, come here. Miller evacuated the dark giant, and he beckoned to Vivi, who walked over with a strange look. You should not be capable. Miller asked calmly. Yes. Vivi nodded. Now it's right. Miller glanced at Blackbeard strangely, and the latter panicked. In a daze, he understood what Miller meant. Could it be that he was going to take my dark fruit and transfer it to this woman? Blackbeard's face was horrified, and his body curled up into a ball. Don't do this to me. I can be your little brother. Blackbeard knelt directly on the ground, begging for mercy. Faced with the choice of life and death, Blackbeard decisively gave up his dignity. Hearing that, Miller's eyes narrowed a little, and he hesitated. Blackbeard was indeed good at fighting. However, thinking back to Blackbeard's various actions from now on, his compassion gave up again. Whitebeard treated Blackbeard as a son. He was betrayed, and he was fisted by a dutiful son when he went to war. Forget this kind of person. It's a pity teach, I don't dare to ask for someone like you. Miller shook his head and walked towards Blackbeard step by step. He was scattered in darkness, and a black barrier enveloped Blackbeard's body, which was a prelude to capturing the fruit. This bastard really wants to transfer my power to that woman. Blackbeard looked at Vivi with a grim look, and screamed frantically, "You forced me. Come out, old ghost." Blackbeard's mouth opened, and a cloud of black mist gushed out of his mouth. At the same time, Blackbeard's aura suddenly changed, and his eyes turned green, even his arms were thick. What surprised Miller most was that a huge sense of oppression radiated from Blackbeard. Under what circumstances, how did this guy suddenly strengthen? Miller opened his eyes, and he stared at Blackbeard motionlessly. The guy before was like a tiger, but now the explosive aura is like a dragon going out to the sea. The breath is compelling, giving people a feeling of being overwhelmed and invincible. Boom boom boom. Immediately afterwards, another super strong breath erupted from Blackbeard's body. The earth swayed continuously, and the ground was torn apart by invisible force. The people around fell down in an instant, foaming at the mouth. Including Vivi, only Nico, Robin and Bartolomeo were unharmed. However, the two of them were also very pale, gritting their teeth. This is Conqueror's hockey. It's a hell, since it's Conqueror's hockey. Why didn't I copy it? Miller looked at Hockey's mad Blackbeard and wondered if the system was malfunctioning. I'm finally out, tremble, world. A husky, domineering voice came from Blackbeard's mouth, completely different from Blackbeard's voice. Stop talking nonsense. I don't have the strength to fight back. Run away quickly. This was Blackbeard's voice. Escape? Are you kidding me, idiot son? Great rocks D. Zebek, I won't run away in front of anyone, the man yelled. But you are just a soul body now. Blackbeard reminded, seeming to feel uncomfortable being scolded, my stupid father. This guy Miller is very weird. He can replicate anyone's abilities. He has also copied my dark fruit, and even has the alien physique inherited from you. There is such a thing. Hearing this, Blackbeard only looked at Miller twice, and then said gloomily, I'll see you later. Huh. He dissipated into a faint light, and Miller was still watching dumbly. When he recovered, the Blackbeard had disappeared. The retreat speed is very fast, not inferior to the shining fruit. Even if Miller really catches up, it may not catch him. His head is noisy at the moment, and he has no plans to continue chasing. There seems to be a soul body in that guy Blackbeard, who claims to be Rox D. Zebek. Blackbeard calls him father. What kind of mess is this? Miller's head buzzed, and those few words just brought his thunderous outside and inside tender. Roger's previous sea overlord, Rox D. Zebek, still exists in the world as a soul body? And is he still Blackbeard's father? From what Blackbeard meant, it seemed that the alien physique was inherited from Rox. Miller took a few deep breaths to calm his emotions. In fact, think about it carefully, Blackbeard and Rox do have a relationship. After becoming the Four Emperors, Blackbeard set the base on Beehive Island, where Rox Pirate used to be the base camp, and it can be regarded as the son of the father's business. Blackbeard has run away, but his little brothers are not so lucky. Except for Rafit, the kid who took the opportunity to run away, the other three were arrested. Burgess, Fan Oka, and Drug Q were all thrown into prison. Their cellmate is called Crocodile. In the palace, half of the buildings were destroyed in the previous war, but Cobra, the king, was very happy, but at a small price. He defeated the Blackbeard in the group, which made a lot of money. In the quiet bedroom, after defeating Blackbeard, Miller returned to rest. His mind is messy, there are a lot of things that have not been sorted out. System. The Conqueror's hockey that just broke out on Blackbeard. Why didn't I copy it? Miller communicated with the system with his mind. This ability does not belong to Blackbeard, but comes from another person in his body, the system explained. Miller was relieved after hearing this, and he could barely accept the result. It's a pity. I originally planned to transfer dark fruit to Vivi. The ghost knows that there is still an old immortal hiding in Blackbeard. Miller couldn't help feeling sorry. Boom. There was a slight knock on the door, and Miller rubbed his head. Come in. Creak. The door was slightly pushed open. Vivi and Robin caught the eye. Master Miller, the public trial for Crocodile has ended. In view of the harm he has done to Alabasta, we have decided to release the capital punishment, Vivi said solemnly. During the period when Crocodile harmed Alabasta, the loss was astronomical, and the number of people who died because of him was countless. That's right. Let that guy leave alive. Maybe he will retaliate in the future. Miller nodded, supporting Vivi. Besides, about Blackbeard's subordinates, also kill them, Miller said coldly. They begged Lord Miller for mercy. Robin said slowly, they are all willing to join your subordinates. Huh. I don't believe Blackbeard. What's more, it's them. Maybe they just let go. Those guys were free and ran away. Miller snorted coldly, Blackbeard's dog, I can't believe it. Then execute the shooting together. Vivi said slowly. At noon on the second day, the execution platform was built outside the palace, and the surrounding area was filled with thousands of citizens. These guys have brought war to our country for several years. Crocodile, a capital punishment. Before we almost believed his nonsense to overthrow King Cobra. Fortunately, Lord Miller descended like a god and saved us. The people talked a lot, and Miller has become a hero in Alabasta. Look, Lord Miller is here. The gate of the palace opened and Miller walked out first. On both sides of him were Vivi and Cobra and others. Long live Lord Miller. The citizens cheered, their faces filled with infinite joy, and even the children shouted long live Miller. Miller waved his hand, and a soft color bloomed on that face. It's nothing more than a pirate, and disguised himself as a hero, hypocritical. Crocodile, who was tied up by a chain, looked at all this indifferently. Hey, are you qualified to talk about me? Miller heard Crocodile's complaints all the way. In fact, he also recruited Crocodile. Compared to the cunning and insidious Blackbeard, who likes to go back and forth, Sand Crocodile is much more cute. Is Crocodile too stubborn and bows his head to the enemy? Dreaming. In this case, Miller could only send him to death. Master Miller, let us go, we are willing to be your subordinates. Burgess quickly knelt and begged for mercy. We know the secret of Blackbeard. Van Oka also gave up his dignity. Only the dizzy Poison Q didn't say a word, but this guy was also kneeling on the ground. No spine at all, waste. Crocodile glanced at Blackbeard's partner, eyes full of contempt. It's a shame for me to die with such people, and drive them away. Crocodile looked at Miller dissatisfied. Crocodile, believe it or not that Lousy smashed your head. Burgess stared at Crocodile fiercely. Coward. Crocodile responded contemptuously. Lousy is going to beat you into shit. Burgess spits stars flying all over the sky. Everyone is dying, and everyone is still in the mood for arguing and infighting. Miller was also drunk, so he glanced at Vivi and winked at her. Vivi understood, and gestured to the soldiers standing in a row to shoot. Bang bang bang. Suddenly several shots fell, and Crocodile and Blackbeard's crew were all shot through. The marksmanship was accurate, all of them hit the eyebrows and fell one by one. Unexpectedly, I ended up like this. Crocodile looked at the sky unwillingly, and then closed his eyes in despair. A generation of great heroes came to an end, which made many people feel incredible. Almost 20 years ago, Crocodile made a name for himself in the sea, and he served as Shichibukai early, belonging to the older group of pirates. Who would have thought that he would have fallen in Alabasta like this? Not killed in battle, but ended in a funny way like shooting. At the same time, after the execution of the prisoner, Miller did not need to stay in Alabasta. The group of them planned to set off and left. Aren't you going to go with me, Vivi? In Vivi's bedroom, the big man Miller was lying on her big bed, with Vivi's head resting on his chest. Sorry, Lord Miller, the whole country is now a waste of time, and my father does not have enough staff to help. I want to stay here to help him. Vivi said apologetically, after this busy time, I will definitely find Master Miller. Also. Miller readily agreed. He closed his eyes and sniffed the fragrance of Vivi. Those big rough hands also gradually became restless. Master Miller. Vivi glanced at Miller bitterly, and the latter squeezed his cheek. Vivi, the separation is coming soon, should we do something? Miller looked at her slyly. Vivi gave a light spit, and handed a big Byakugan. An hour later, Miller and his party left the palace in Alabasta. At the gate of the palace, King Cobra took Alabasta officials to bid farewell to Miller and his gang. Strange. Why didn't Vivi come? Cobra rummaged through the crowds, but did not see his daughter. Anyone can be absent, except Vivi. Oh, it's okay, she's a little tired, I'll let her rest, Miller said casually. Cobra's expression froze. He looked at Miller, who happened to be watching him too, and a smile that everyone knew gradually appeared on the corner of his mouth. Cobra's face suddenly twitched. Then I wish Lord Miller a safe journey to Sky Island. Haha, Cobra, thank you, I will come to Alabasta as a guest when I have time. By the way, if you have any trouble, just report my name. In the port near Alabasta, several warships were parked on the shore. It was Marine Admiral Kizaru who took the lead, along with Vice Admiral, the Chief Staff Officer, and others. Miss Crane, I can leave this to my own person. Just a few prisoners, and I will bother you to go out. In the cabin of the battleship, Kizaru looked at the gray-haired Crane, Vice Admiral said. Since Crocodile and others are captured, they must send these evil pirates to impel down. Looking at it this way, Marine didn't know that Crocodile was executed. After all, this was just what happened. Boy, don't be too confident. Sengoku also approved me to come, don't forget, that Miller is still in Alabasta. Crane Vice Admiral said solemnly. Kizaru stretched out his hands and expressed helplessness. Next to Crane, there is a plump woman with a bulging front, a beautiful face, a spider tattoo on her thigh, and a famous knife jinpaluo in her hand. This person is called Gion, which is the future Admiral's substitute Momoshagi. And, Crane Vice Admiral looked cautiously, and preached solemnly. I heard that dark fruit has also been copied. He is really a terrible man. He has more and more powerful devil fruit. Dark fruit? Kizaru's face sank. Dark fruit was just the opposite of his power, it was definitely a powerful devil fruit. That guy's strength will get stronger and stronger. If he doesn't find a way to restrict him, then maybe the devil fruit that fills the world will appear on him alone. Kizaru was full of fear, and he was also a victim. Our only way is to publicize his threat. Let the world know the danger of that guy. Everyone stays away from him, he can't copy it. He Vice Admiral sighed, this is the only way. Sengoku has already given orders to Marine, and if I meet that guy in the future, just take a detour. Crane Vice Admiral took out a wanted warrant for Miller, which was still 1.6 billion Baileys before, but this has risen again. It reached 1.8 billion Baileys, which was an increase of 200 million Baileys. It is not that there are no pirates offering 1.8 billion rewards, like the 4 emperors of the sea, all starting with 4 billion Baileys. But a big man like Miller, who has jumped from 0 bounty to 1.8 billion Baileys in just 1 month, seems to be the only one in history. Bluebrew. The phone worm on the desk rang suddenly, and Kizaru answered without thinking. This was used to contact Cobra before, and Marine asked Cobra to surrender Crocodile and other prisoners. I'm sorry, Marine came too late, Crocodile and Blackbeard's companions have been shot. Cobra's voice rang from the phone bug, and in an instant, the entire cabin was silent. The crocodile who has been in the ocean for 10 or 20 years, was shot like this. Funny. Sky Island, this is an island floating above the sky. In recent decades, no one has visited here except for Roger and the One Piece King. Because of isolation, Sky Island is not as chaotic as the sea, without harassment by pirates. The ruler of Sky Island is called Enel, a self-proclaimed god. Boom. The clouds near Sky Island trembled suddenly, and many people nearby saw the movement here. Sweeping his gaze, it was a warship that passed through the clouds and flew into the sky. Oh my god, a ship flew up? Are they from the lower realm? How did they rush up? The residents of Sky Island were surprised to see the pirate ship flying in the sky. This is the Miller Group. After they left Alabasta, they arrived here via the violent upward current known as the dangerous route of life or death. Boom. After falling with a loud noise, the battleship fell to the ground of Sky Island, and the whole ship was immediately torn apart. Everyone fell faint. It soared from land to an altitude of 10,000 meters, a span that most people can't bear. Is this Sky Island? Miller got up dazedly from the ground and stared at the quiet city in the distance, as if stepping into another world, far away from the filth of the world. Not far away, there was a winged person staring at them blankly. It was the local aborigines. Is the legendary Sky Island here? Robin also asked the same question. She rubbed her head, and then asked after a little while, by the way, does this place really have a historical text? No wonder Robin is skeptical, because there are only a handful of people who have set foot here in recent decades. How did Miller know this news? Robin even thought it was Miller's trick to trick her into getting on the ship. Of course, I'm not going to lie to you. The Golden City Shandora has a piece of historical text, which also records the origin of ancient weapon, Poseidon. Miller said casually, continuing to look into the distance. But these words gave Robin a great shock. She looked at Miller warily. You brought me here to find the whereabouts of ancient weapon. Relaxation, peace of mind, it's just too much thinking. I didn't ask where the Pluton in your backpack is. Miller stretched his waist and smiled wildly at the corner of his mouth. Master is only interested in beauty and power, and this power is not those external forces. Understand me, little girl, Your charm fascinates me more than ancient weapon, my baby. Of course. Someday in the future, if I encounter an unsolvable enemy, I might also discover ancient weapon. But this possibility is probably very small. Miller said to himself. These words made Nico Robin put down his vigilance. This is indeed the case. So far, Miller has not pressed Pluton's whereabouts. It seems that he is really not interested, but in fact Robin is quite surprised. That is the ancient weapon that is enough to drive the pirates crazy. Boss Miller, is this Sky Island? Bartolomeo walked over in a daze, looking awake. Probably that's it, you all stay away from me, I have something to do. Miller suddenly said loudly, and waved his hand at the same time, beckoning everyone to stay away from him as much as possible. What are you doing? Robin glanced at Miller suspiciously, then stepped back more than 10 meters. This distance is not enough. Keep moving back, or it will be bad if you get bombed by mistake. Miller urged, making everyone confused. Bombed by mistake? Cough cough cough. After waiting for everyone to step back 40 to 50 meters, Miller cleared his throat and looked at the sky and cursed. That shit god Enel, you are a rubbish, trash, and in Lousy's eyes you are a worthless dish. Chicken, your poor and humble strength can only dominate Sky Island, and you are a stinky brother in front of me. When these words fell, the sluggishness on the faces of the Aboriginal people on Sky Island all turned into fear, and they fled madly. Crazy crazy, this guy actually insulted Lord God. The Aborigines of Sky Island fled in a hurry, but Robin and others were puzzled. What's the situation? Enel, the god, Logia Thunderfruit-capable person, relies on his so-called heartnet, which is actually observation hockey. Combined with Thunderfruit's ability, it can receive electric waves, so it strengthens its ability and range, and can clearly feel it. The movement of the entire Sky Island. So, Miller cursed Enel all the way, that guy should have heard clearly. That kid should attack. This rebellious kid is arrogant and arrogant. If you can't hear others say bad things about him, he will do it right away. Miller stared at the sky eagerly. He was eager for Enel to come and punish him with a spiritual punishment, Thunderfruit's ability. He was very greedy. Boss Miller. What is this? Who is Enel? Bartolomeo, Robin and others didn't know what Miller was doing, they thought he was nervous. Over the azure clouds, suddenly overcast clouds, a dangerous atmosphere filled the air. Slap. Within the clouds, a large number of lightning collapsed, and the entire sky blasted endlessly. When everyone was surprised that Sky Island's climate was changing, a beam of light fell on Miller's body. This is not a climate issue, but a human factor. Who has the ability to control lightning? Seeing the thunder and lightning flashing in the clouds above, Robin's breathing felt a lot heavier. Thunderfruit is definitely one of the strongest Logia fruits. It is impeccable in terms of speed and destructive power. It can even be used as a power source. It is a very comprehensive devil fruit. Boom. With a loud noise falling, a large group of thunder and lightning shot down from a high altitude. The speed of the lightning was so fast that it instantly engulfed Miller, and his whole body's bones were covered by electric naked eyes. Everyone also understands why Miller told them to retreat. Rumble. The lightning that covered Miller's body turned into tens of millions of volts of thunder and exploded, the soil scattered, and the place was blasted out of a huge pit on the spot. Miller lay in it, smoking. This is the fate of offending the gods, and he will be cruelly punished. The Aboriginal people of Sky Island were shocked when they saw it. Someone once offended Enel and ended the scene. Haha, stupid guy. Thank you this time. Miller lay on the ground, looking at the sky and laughing wildly. The Thunderfruit-capable person Enel has been captured, and now I start copying 1%, 50%, 100%. The copying is complete. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Thunderfruit. The observation hockey carrier Enel has been captured, and now I will start copying 1%, 50%, 100%, and the copy is complete. Congratulations to the host for obtaining observation hockey. In his mind, there was the sound of the system machinery, and Miller jumped up in excitement. Wait for me. An astonishing hostility was released in Miller's eyes, and the power of observation hockey mixed with Thunderfruit instantly covered the entire Sky Island. For a long time, Miller has covered multi-person hockey. Whether it is observation hockey or armament hockey, it is beyond the imagination of others. He searched where Enel was in the same way, and the entire Sky Island was within the range of perception. Will there be a God's sanction just for you? Lousy has learned it now. A certain direction of Sky Island, the so-called dwelling place of the gods. Enel lay lazily on the soft cushion, holding an apple in his hand, and several young girls in front of him were playing classical music. A trivial human being dare to offend this god, it's too self-conscious. Enel was gnawing at the apple, while the other person who spoke badly was extremely hot. Sky Island rarely has such arrogant fools. Booming. A loud thunder suddenly appeared over Enel's head. He looked up and saw that a large group of dark clouds had condensed, and the thunder and lightning were also crashing. No way, Enel's face was weird, and he felt a familiar force. And, this scene looks exactly the same as the big move he used? I should think too much, my strength is unique. Enel persuaded himself, but in the next second, he was completely panicked. A beam of light shone on him, carved out of the same mold as the beam of light that fell on Miller. Enel seemed to have been stepped on the tail hair, and instantly jumped up. What are you playing? Booming. Before Enel finished speaking, the extremely violent thunder and lightning blasted on him, and his residence was drowned in the thunderous thunder even with his whole person. It's almost okay. Thunderfruit is already in hand. On the other side, Miller, who had finished work, had a bright smile on his face, copied Thunderfruit, and gave Enel a slap in the face, feeling very comfortable. You got Thunderfruit? Robin couldn't help feeling his scalp numb. Logia's sand fruit, Logia's glitter fruit, Logia's dark fruit, and now they have naturally awakened Thunderfruit. In addition, there are some powerful fruits. This F*K has an invincible rhythm. As you can see, it is a fruit of great power. Miller lifted his hand, and the thunder and lightning spread across his arm, and everyone looked at him in a daze. This is their boss, a man who combines the power of multiple devil fruit. Okay, we have done all the things that should be done. Next, let's go to the Golden City to find the historical text. Miller grabbed Robin's waist from behind, and the latter struggled a bit, but his strength was far worse than Miller's. You are committing a crime, Robin complained helplessly. Ha ha ha. I didn't do that much, but are you suggesting that I did something? Miller blinked at Robin, who was itching his teeth with anger, and the guy was a little shameless. Then go to the Golden City first. Robin was forced to agree, and Miller took the lead to leave with Robin. Naturally, some small movements were unavoidable along the way. Bartolomeo and others followed behind. In order to rush to the Golden City of Shandora as soon as possible, Miller and others found a few local guides, and spent several hours of effort finally arrived in this mysterious Golden City. It's just that. The indigenous people living here are very disgusted with the arrival of Miller and others, and even fierce conflicts have occurred. When the persuasion was invalid, Miller used a powerful force to frighten them, and the aboriginal group obediently retreated. Miller released the Thunderfruit seized by Enel, awakening the fear of Enel in many people's hearts. That's it. A group of people came to a damaged city. The surface looked dilapidated. When they walked in, they found that most of the buildings inside were made of gold. Here. Gold is as ordinary as a stone. Oh my god, a lot of gold, now I'm going to make a fortune. My uncle wants to make millions, oh no, my uncle is going to become a billionaire. It's hard to imagine that the whole city is made of gold. This is too extravagant. Bartolomeo's little brothers saw the gold, all eyes were frozen, and some people even rolled directly in the golden nest. Pirates, it's normal to like money. Miller doesn't restrain their nature, so let's move all those who can. He followed Nico Robin to the highest point of the Golden City, where there stood a golden clock, which was as huge as a house. And under that golden clock is a piece of historical text full of words. Really here? Nico Robin smiled happily, put down his backpack quickly, and rushed over for the first time. Miller was not interested in the historical text. He wandered around a few times, and the floor he walked on was all made of gold. There is a word that describes Sandola very aptly: gold everywhere. If it were the stinky cock from the previous life, Miller would definitely be as gaffy as these pirates, bewildered by money. Now that Miller, who has a variety of abilities, has already underestimated the material, strength is the most important. As long as a person is strong, he only needs to wave his hand. What is it? Boss, we have made a fortune. As long as we emptied this place, we will eat and drink for the rest of our lives. Bartolomeo ran over, his mouth drooling wildly. It is not difficult to see that he is also a money fan. Take everything you like. Miller didn't have much trouble with this, and said nonchalantly, anyway, here, rumbling. Suddenly there was a deafening movement over the sky. Miller looked up, and before he knew it, the sky was already covered by a thick black cloud. His observation hockey rushed to the cloud, and said displeased, "Is that stinky boy asking for trouble again? Snap it." As soon as the voice fell, a strong thunder and lightning fell from the clouds. Bartolomeo almost peed his pants in fright, and quickly released the barrier fruit. Rumble. The lightning exploded on the barrier, and although the power was extraordinary, the barrier fruit was not penetrated. However, the terrifying high temperature carried by thunder and lightning melted half of the area of the barrier. Boss. Isn't this still the Enel? Bartolomeo beats the drum in his heart, and humans have a natural fear of lightning. Miller said nothing. He suddenly looked into the distance and said awe-inspiringly, "It's coming." Snap it. In midair, lightning spread from afar, constantly approaching where Miller was. In the blink of an eye, all the huge sky was covered with dark clouds, surrounding Shandora. Die all, blasphemer! A thunderous voice sounded. Flap. 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 Countless thunder and lightning launched a ruthless bombardment on Shandora, and the screams became continuous. A large amount of black mist erupted from Miller's palm, and a huge black sphere instantly condensed. The Dark Emperor. With a hard shot, Miller threw the black ball into the sky, with extremely dense gravity condensed on it, like a black hole that swallowed everything. Dark clouds and lightning were all absorbed in. As expected of the boss, Bartolomeo's hanging heart was relieved. A huge spaceship flew quickly from a distance, running on electricity, and most of the buildings on it were also made of gold. The man with a dumb look stood on the deck, and he looked down at Miller and the others condescendingly. His eyes were like the shadow of a sword, without emotion. Is that you, a mere human? When he spoke with the aura of secondary too, making himself not a human being. Sure enough, it's you, Enel. Miller looked at the arc in the sky and his eyes lit up. When they landed on Sky Island, their battleship was broken. Isn't Enel's arc motto a substitute? Not only can sail, but also fly in the sky. Enel, you are amazing. Not only did you give me your devil fruit, and knew that Laozi's ship was destroyed, but you also sent your arc motto. I am grateful. A smile appeared on Miller's face, ignoring Enel, who was angry like a mad cow. Think of me as a prey? Human, so courageous. Enel understood the meaning in Miller's eyes, and became angry. This is a blasphemy against God. Those who rebel against God, kill without mercy. Boom. The golden stick in his hand struck the drum vigorously, and lightning followed. 30 million volts Thunderbird. The thunder and lightning turned into a broad giant bird, and the two silver wings fluttered and flew out at high speed. Miller didn't change his face, slapped out the rich darkness, and directly pulled the Thunderbird over. Guru. Without the expected explosion, Thunderbird rushed into Miller's palm quickly and peacefully like gurgling water. Enel was a little dazed when he encountered this situation for the first time. His abilities were invincible before. Snap it. Miller was covered in thunder and lightning. His thumb swept to Enel, 30 million volts Thunderbird. Above the head, thunder and lightning condensed, and the big thunder and lightning bird with fangs and sharp beaks condensed in an instant. Enel was messed up, and his face was full of dementia. This Thunderbird. Isn't it his trick? He looks exactly the same. Huh. The gust of thunder and lightning came towards him, and Enel was distracted, and the Thunderbird had already swallowed his body. Rumble. A fierce explosion suddenly exploded on Enel, and this guy fell like a kite with a broken line from the Ark Proverbs. Enel hit the ground fiercely, a burst of blood gushing out of his mouth. Imitate God, attack God, despise God, mankind, you cannot forgive. Enel's hysterical roar resounded through the earth, and he got up angrily. Sadly, before he had time to cast his piercing eyes on Miller, the deadly beam of lightning was projected from the height. 100 million volts. A large group of silver-white violent lightning fell, and the sky was lit up. Enel looked flustered. He felt the threat and retreated in a hurry. Rumble. A black hole with a radius of tens of meters was blasted out of the ground, and even Enel was beyond the reach of this powerful destructive power. Boom. The golden rod in his hand struck the thunder drum again and again. Thunder and lightning spewed out of the body again, and a thunder dragon that was several feet long pounced on Miller, 60 million volts thunder dragon. Miller was not afraid, covered the blazing light with his right foot, kicked it out, kick at the speed of light. Pouch. The straight beam of light penetrated the head of the thunder dragon like a lightsaber, but the tenacious thunder dragon did not dissipate. The incompleteness entangled the light like a python. Rumble. There was another earth-shattering explosion, and the two disappeared together. Sky Island doesn't have such a strong character. Should it be from below? Enel's face was blue, and he fought for a while. He didn't take the slightest advantage. Buzzing. The flash of light condensed above his head, and the golden rod was quickly swept away covered with powerful lightning. Boom. The power of Enel's strike was not bad, and the flashes spread like splashes of water. A smile appeared on Enel's face, but he froze for only a second. When the golden light dissipated, endless darkness emerged. His golden rod was sinking into it, a huge pulling force followed, and the golden rod was dragged in half of it all at once. Enel tried to pull it out, but didn't move. He quickly loosened the golden stick, and withdrew his body into elements. Huh. Enel was breathing hard, and after a few simple back and forth, he was sweating profusely from exhaustion. Deep in the corner of his eyes, he was even a little frightened. Once he was sucked into the darkness, he would be finished. He has a lot of abilities, more than the original god. Enel bit his lower lip unwillingly, and the blood flowed out. He claims to be a god, but compared to Miller's ability, it doesn't seem to be a big deal. In terms of quantity comparison, Enel with only one ability is simply desperate. Desert Storm. The life-demanding voice suddenly sounded, and as soon as Enel was about to start his action, his vision was blocked by a tornado desert. Look at this god breaking out and smashing your head. Enel was very aura, he was covered with lightning, like armor, and he didn't pay attention to this desert storm at all. Slap. The sound of thunder and lightning resounded, and Enel's body turned into a silver light to break through, rushing into the desert tornado like a sharp arrow. Enel is very arrogant and arrogant. In his cognition, he who can control thunder and lightning is invincible. But, the screams resounded, and Enel shrank back into the desert tornado. His whole body was blood, his body was stained with a lot of sand, and his flexible abdomen was full of mutilated wounds. Enel trembled in pain. Wherever he broke into a desert, it was obviously a rotating sword formation, and every piece of sand was actually a sharp dagger, which was full of dangers. Do you know the gap between us, Enel? Miller's quiet voice came from outside, the opposite of the embarrassed Enel. Since the start of the war, Miller has not been injured. Don't get too smug, you humble human. The enraged Enel released a more powerful thunder and lightning, and his big hand called to the sky, and the sky was suddenly covered by clouds, and lightning flashed and thundered. 100 million volts. The enraged Enel was fully fired, and with a big hand, zigzag lightning spewed out. Boom. As a loud noise fell, the desert storm surrounding him directly exploded. The terrifying electric current pushed in all directions, and the high temperature flooded by lightning directly merged with the capital of gold. The gold is flowing like a liquid. Unforgivable, unforgivable, unforgivable. Enel stood up tremblingly, blood gushing out of the wound again, grinning in pain. He pointed his finger at Miller, and the lightning swept away again, gritted his teeth and shouted, 150 million volts. Snap it. An unusually exaggerated lightning bolt exploded from Enel, and the condensed serpentine lightning whizzed out with a whistling sound. And the speed is extremely fast, twice as fast as the normal state of lightning. It was Miller who didn't feel it either. Rumble. The earthquake trembled, Miller was hit by a terrifying lightning, and a huge fireball ignited directly on him. Ha ha ha, die, go to my uncle, you clown who dare to provoke God. Enel smiled madly, his face distorted. Miller's body was burning with flames tens of meters high, and even the sky was burnt red. Master Miller, doesn't it matter? The younger brothers brought by Miller were extremely worried. They did not dare to approach, because the power of Thunderfruit was too powerful, and they might be melted even if they were a little closer. 150 million volts. After a while, a dangerous sound came from the fierce burning sea of fire, and Enel's smile suddenly froze. Pouch. The exact same serpentine lightning shattered the surroundings of the sea of fire. The speed was too fast, and it was also impossible to avoid it, and it swallowed Enel in an instant. Rumble. With another loud noise, Enel was annihilated by Ultimate's blazing light. On the ground, a black hole with a radius of more than 100 meters was blasted out. After a great battle, this so-called golden capital was almost destroyed. The scattered lightning was full of high temperatures, and everything here was burned or melted. Miller stepped out of the flames unharmed, his hands in Kabuto were greeted by him. Although his body was in smoke, there was no substantial harm. It's just that the coat on the upper body was burned. On the other hand, Enel was miserable. He was lying on the ground with severe scorch, his body motionless. Appears to have passed out. Is it finally over? Everyone watching the battle was relieved. The decisive battle between the two Thunderfruit-capable people was too shocking. Between them, the entire Sky Island shook slightly. Continue to fight, maybe this island will be blown up. Puff. The strong and powerful heartbeat resounded suddenly, especially when Miller was 10 or 20 meters away from Enel at this moment, which is impossible to hear under normal circumstances. However, his observation hockey, who got Thunder Fruit, was promoted as a result. Just glanced at Enel and heard the sound of accelerating heart coming from his body. An electric current flows through Enel's body, and the stopped organ is recovering rapidly. Is this electrotherapy? Miller stroked his chin, trying to find the perfect fruit, so the first thing that came to mind was Thunder Fruit. The speed is fast, the damage is strong, the lightning can be used as an energy source, and it can also be treated. It is really very comprehensive. Cough, cough, cough. There was a severe cough, and everyone followed the source of the sound. Enel, who was fainted, got up again. His eyes were so gloomy that water could drip out of that face. You damn bastard, I must kill you. Enel glared at Miller. In today's battle, he was sweeping with majesty, and his dignity was severely trampled by Miller. His tricks had little effect on Miller. On the other hand, Miller, who used the same tricks as himself, could easily beat him to death. Too frustrated. Kill me. To tell you the truth, I can't do this myself. Miller spread his hands, he was immortal. And we don't have to decide the outcome. Miller saw the raging anger in Enel's eyes and chuckled lightly. If you can't beat it, join in. Since it's not my opponent, join my camp and be my little brother. You deserve it too. Enel's eyes grew colder, and he snorted very dissatisfied. Who told you that I did my best? This is true. Enel is in the 200 million volt Thor mode at the maximum. When he releases this trick, his whole body will be surrounded by terrifying thunder and lightning, just like an invincible Thor. Yes. Miller nodded thoughtfully, and then smiled weirdly. Then you can use it, I just borrowed it for reference. To tell you, I have too many fruit powers, and I don't bother to develop it. 100,000 horses flew past Enel. Can this bastard talk so annoyingly? Plagiarism is still so upright? Enel's fighting power is really good, especially Thunderfruit's power is bound to cross the sea. There is one more thing that satisfies Miller, not as cunning and insidious as Blackbeard. 100 million volts. Enel yelled, and a dangerous arc passed through the air, and in a flash, it landed on top of Miller's head. Boom. The ground trembled fiercely again, and the place where Miller was collapsed again, and the electric current visible to the naked eye was flowing through him. Surprisingly, Miller stood upright like a bamboo pole, and the expression on his face remained unchanged. I should have said that I am immortal. Miller stretched indifferently, and he was covered with tough armament hockey defenses. To be honest. After a flash of lightning, there was no substantial damage, just a little numbness in his body. I can only fight. A flash of determination flashed in Enel's eyes. The ordinary lightning had no effect on Miller, in that case. 200 million volts Thor mode. Enel's pores were all opened, and violent lightning spilled out, covering his whole body like a battle armor. Enel instantly became a freak bathed in lightning. Slap. The whole world is full of thunder and lightning. Enel seems to be the god of thunder and lightning are responding to his call. The monkeys from below, die to the gods. The thunderous Enel's palm condenses a huge thunder and lightning, which is as dazzling as the sun. Call out. Enel launched a thunder and lightning, and a huge thunderball hit head-on. Miller was not afraid, his arms were raised high, endless darkness gushing out, Dark Emperor. The same extremely exaggerated dark sphere was also formed in a flash. With a flick of his finger, the black ball flew over. Boom. Two spheres, one white and one black, collided fiercely. There was no big explosion as imagined. The dark condensed sphere resembled a swamp, and the lightning ball slowly plunged into it. Seeing this, Enel screamed unwillingly, that's 200 million volts. If it falls on Sky Island, Enel is even sure to blow the island to pieces. But is it absorbed right now? You stupid, dark fruit is the natural enemy of the capable person. It doesn't matter what your abilities are. Miller sneered and stared at Enel for a while, the same thunder and lightning in his body. 200 million volts Thor. Miller followed the example of Enel, erupting dense lightning from the body, and the thunder and lightning gathered and did not disperse, covering the whole body. He instantly became a behemoth like Enel. Learn me again? Enel's brain was almost dizzy, and in resentment, he fought hard to kill. Even though he was bloated a lot, Enel, who was transformed into Thor, was still fast. He swept in front of Miller in one thought, and thunder and lightning fist struck out. Miller also fisted back. Boom. The fists of the two slammed together, and the lightning expanded to every corner of the world with the airflow. Click. There was a crisp cracking sound, and there were many cracks in the fist. Enel's heart immediately fell cold, his genuine, actually not as good as a counterfeit? Is there any truth? In fact, what Enel didn't know was that Miller's attack was mixed with armament hockey's power, which was naturally much stronger than the simple thunder fruit. Heaven Kong Yun Jian. Miller, who was wrapped in thunder and lightning, shouted, and a golden sword suddenly appeared on his hand. You stupid, this uncle is an enhanced version of Thor mode. Miller's arms swept out, and the golden sword flew out. Enel was shocked, full of thunder and lightning, and quickly backed away. Miller raised his palm, and a powerful black mist erupted from it, dark water. The majestic gravity flew out and instantly grabbed Enel. His facial expression was very flustered, because his body flew over uncontrollably. The golden sword in Miller's hand pierced out with all his strength. Pouch! The thunder and lightning all over Enel was pierced immediately, his mouth opened, and scarlet blood spurted out. Enel screamed again and again. He was badly injured and could not maintain the Thor mode, and the lightning on his body disappeared. His real body was also penetrated by the flashing sword. Master Miller won. The pirates waved their arms excitedly, and everyone's hanging hearts landed on the ground safely, and the fighting between the two was exceptionally thrilling. Thank you for your generosity, Enel. Miller drew the sky from the cloud sword, and Enel sprayed out another blood, and fell to the ground. Miller also lifted the Thor mode and said with a grin, not only did you give thunder fruit to me, you even taught me so many tricks. You are such a good person. Oh, right. Miller looked at the Ark's motto that was still drifting in the sky. This spaceship is mine too, Tiezi. Thank you for your support. Impossible. Enel, lying underground, had a fierce light in his eyes and stubbornly preached. Everything is mine, you can't take it away. Miller ignored the insane Enel. He jumped over the Ark's motto in a flash, and the thunder and lightning released filled the energy chamber, supplemented by new energy, and the entire spacecraft began to dive in an orderly manner. Shameless guy. Enel's eyes burst when he saw this scene. Miller was a shameless thief who stole his devil fruit, tricks, and even the spaceship. Under Miller's control, the Ark's proverbs landed safely on the ground. Miller jumped down from above. Bartolomeo and other pirates all approached, and everyone looked at this spaceship that could fly in the sky with curiosity. Will it be theirs from now on? Boss. Are we going to use this to break into the new world in the future? Bartolomeo jumped and jumped, very excited. Yes. Miller nodded, glanced at Enel who was crawling on the ground, and said in a weird manner, thanks to the support of Enel God tier. Hearing that, Enel's old face was black and speechless. In addition, you go find a young man with potential, remember, be absolutely loyal. Miller looked at Bartolomeo and emphasized, it must not be demon fruit power. Bartolomeo comprehended Miller's meaning, and glanced at Enel pityingly. I'm confirming it again. Are you unwilling to surrender me? Miller walked up to Enel, did not know where he picked up a piece of grass, and poked Enel in the forehead. God won't give in to anyone. Enel glared. Slap. Miller applauded and gave Enel a thumbs up, then thank you Lord God for the grant. Enel's pupils shrank. What do you mean? Within a short time, Bartolomeo found a young man with a strong build. His name was Hassan, who was considered outstanding among Bartolomeo's younger brothers. Master Miller. The young man knelt on one knee after seeing Miller, his face full of admiration. Get up. Miller waved his hand, and then the viscous dark power gushed out of his hand, and a huge black barrier enveloped the three of them. What are you doing? Enel slumped his face, dark and gloomy all around him. I want to squeeze out all your value. Miller said blankly, your thunder fruit is ours. After copying Blackbeard, Miller is no different from that guy. You can also plunder the enemy devil fruit and transfer it to others. Miller intends to snatch thunder fruit. Since Enel is unwilling to obey, it is better to find a talented young man to train. Who are you scaring? Enel's eyes glared. I ate that kind of thing, how could it be? Ah! Enel screamed suddenly, and a huge gravitational force was suddenly released in the dark space. The violent force seemed to open the door of his body. Enel always felt that something was about to be pulled out. My stomach hurts fiercely. What frightened Enel the most was that he mobilized the power of his whole body and planned to use Thunderfruit to attack the dark space, but his abilities could not be fully displayed. Can this bastard really plunder my power? Enel's vision was full of panic and fear. How could the power he was proud of had been given to Miller like this? No, I surrender, I am willing to surrender. Enel rolled over and over, begging for mercy in the most humble tone. Miller. Sir. I was ignorant before, I hope you have a lot of knowledge, don't be like me, forgive me. Enel was completely shocked, he was a fart without Thunderfruit. Spare me, please. In the entire dark space, Enel gave in. Miller's eyes flickered. He looked at Hassan, The young man beside him thought for a moment and shook his head again. At present, Enel has developed Thunderfruit to a good level. If it is transferred to others, it will have to start all over again. How many years will it take to form combat effectiveness? After thinking about it, the gravity in the dark space finally collapsed. Enel hurriedly tried Thunderfruit's power. An electric arc appeared in his body again. The power came back. He was relieved. He looked at Miller weakly. Master Miller, I used to have no eyes. Ends. That's right, Enel was convinced. He was really convinced. The look in Miller's eyes was full of fear. Not only could this guy copy everything, but he could also plunder everything and couldn't provoke him. Enel, when you get on my boat in the future, you'd better be obedient to me, otherwise. Miller squeezed his fist and said coldly, otherwise you will die and be ugly, understand? I know. Enel nodded in shock. Snapped. Then, Miller snapped his fingers, and the black barrier disappeared. Little ones, the Sky Island thing is done, we can set sail and leave. Enel surrendered, and there was a happy celebration in the Golden Capital. Little ones, it's a party. A group of Miller pirates came to a bonfire party in the evening. Hundreds of people celebrated happily. Everyone cheered and danced and had a great time. Only Enel was the only one who leaned against the tree and drank wine with a gloomy expression on his face. To be honest, he was reduced from a high spirit to Miller's little brother. Even though Miller gave him the status of a cadre, Enel was still aggrieved. After all, he was the largest in the entire Sky Island before, but now, his status has plummeted. By the way, Miller's pirate group now has 3 more officers: Robin, Bartolomeo, and Enel. In fact, Enel's strength is enough to serve as the deputy captain. Once landed on the sea, Enel's Thunderfruit can exert a good combat effectiveness. The only flaw is the poor batch of this kid armament hockey. Forget it, it's not bad to go and see the kingdom of mortals below. Enel sighed, and the grievances disappeared. Miller's horror, he had a clear understanding, it would be ugly to resist or run away. In the luxurious cabin on the Ark's Proverbs, Miller was grunting frantically, holding barbecue in one mouthful and champagne in the other. Robin is next to him. Robin, the interpretation of the historical text is finished, how can you thank me? Miller stared at Nico Robin with big thief eyes. As the saying goes, the dancers on the boat, Miller, are tired of eating and drinking. It's time for a substitution. Thanks. Aren't we our own people? We still want to talk about thanks. The captain is too far-sighted. Nico Robin didn't even look at Miller, and quietly stared at the notebook in his hand. The content of the historical text of Sky Island is recorded above. Sure enough, it recorded the whereabouts of Poseidon. Robin frowned, and Poseidon's whereabouts pointed to an island under the deep sea, the Fishmen Island. This is actually not what shocked Robin the most. What surprised her most was how did Miller know in advance? A strong smell of alcohol came from the side. Robin looked up. I don't know when it started. Miller was already sitting next to him with a hand around Robin's waist. Robin was helpless, and she didn't struggle, because this was not once or twice. Since getting on the ship, she has no idea how many times she has been scoured by Miller. Not a day is spent in leisure, I am used to it. Robin, aren't you my person? The relationship between us is too cold, Miller said aggrievedly. I feel that we need to deepen our relationship. Still cold. Robin was also drunk when he heard that. This guy had a thicker skin than the city wall. Before saying this, at least look at your actions. Speaking of which, how do you think you want to deepen the relationship? Robin couldn't laugh or cry. It's very simple. As if the conspiracy had succeeded, Miller had a bright smile on his face. I know that you have been living a life of loneliness and helplessness since you were a child. In fact, I am quite miserable. I came to this world by myself. I think we are very suitable. The moonlight is so beautiful tonight. Wouldn't it be nice for us to worship and get married? There was no word for a night, and in a blink of an eye, the next morning, Miller walked out of the cabin with a vigorous spirit. Bartolomeo and others are lying underground and snoring asleep. Enel fell asleep leaning on the tree. Cough, cough, cough. Miller cleared his throat, then opened his voice and shouted, "Little ones, it's time to retreat." This sound can be heard several kilometers away. My God, Boss Miller is crazy. I thought the sky was falling. I just ran into the goddess when I was dreaming, and it turned out. Finally leaving, ha ha ha, now I'm making a fortune. The sleeping pirates complained and complained, and the one who used to sleep the most was Miller, who couldn't wake up no matter what. Why did you get up so early today? In fact, what they didn't know was, Miller didn't close his eyes at all this night. which of course was given by Robin. Although they did not go to court and get married, Miller's goal has been achieved, and his confidant has one more confidant. Are you leaving? Enel also opened his eyes bursting brightly. In fact, he was quite moved by the world below. He asked Bartolomeo and others for some news last night. Miller's reward is 1.8 billion Baileys, and Bartolomeo's reward has risen to 100 million Baileys because of his relationship with Miller's younger brother. As for Robin, it was 150 million Baileys. In fact, she didn't do anything. It was also because she took refuge in Miller and her bounty increased. Enel wants to test how much Pele is worth. Before leaving, everyone moved away the gold from the Golden City. Enel's Ark proverbs were full of more than a dozen tons, and some places even collapsed. What did you bastards do to my lovely Ark? Enel felt very distressed. This spaceship was the car of his dreams. Although it doesn't belong to him now. Set sail, Enel, it's up to you. Miller left the power generation to Enel, and he went on to find Robin to sleep. I was tired all night, but it was actually quite tired. Enel burst into tears. He is a magnificent god. He is currently used as a tool by the bastard Miller, who is responsible for generating electricity for the Ark's proverbs. This god will be famous in the sea, and the bounty must surpass you. Enel jumped angrily, and Miller yawned and went to rest. The rest of them all cast pity at Enel. Unhappy and unhappy, after a few minutes, Enel still released electricity, and the huge Ark quickly floated up and flew towards the distant sky. 5 days later, an island on the Grand Line. Blackbeard has been changing places constantly these days, hiding and hiding like a rat crossing the street. Because of the killing of Saki of the Whitebeard pirates, some people have been hunting him for the past few days. Firefist Ace. If it had been before, Blackbeard was not afraid of Ace, but because of being seriously injured by Miller, Blackbeard's combat effectiveness had dropped to a freezing point and he had been recovering. In a hotel in a small town, Blackbeard was lying sickly on the bed to rest. He was covered in bandages, and there were bloodstains in some places. Damn, it's Ace. Wait for Lousy. My uncle has recovered. Let me take you first. Blackbeard became furious, and Firefist Ace was like a buttworm. Where did he go? Where did this kid go? Blackbeard was bored. He was very unlucky recently, because Alabasta annihilated the Smoker group, most of the Marine was killed, and only a few people survived. Even though Smoker was severely disabled, even Marine was asking him for trouble. You have to find a few companions to help Lousy break down the pressure. It's too hard to fight alone. Blackbeard took the reward order and looked at them one by one. He would try to solicit promising pirates. It didn't matter if it was weak, it was better than alone. Van Oka, Burgess and others were all killed before, only Rafit escaped, and the two sides have not yet met. This is. Blackbeard's gaze stayed on a reward order, and what caught his eye was a man with thunder and lightning all over his body. The cadre of the Miller pirates, Thor, Enel, owner of Logia Thunderfruit, is offering a reward of 100 million Baileys? Blackbeard was stunned. When did the Miller pirates have such a powerful boss? Logia's Thunderfruit. What a good seed, but unfortunately went astray and followed that bastard. Blackbeard is jealous and hateful. Thunderfruit is definitely not worse than Whitebeard's Shock Fruit. It is the top devil fruit. Such a powerful newcomer is actually Miller's new brother? And according to Miller's urinary sex, this jerk himself didn't let it go. It is estimated that he has copied Thunderfruit. After all, he has not let go of Robin's ability before. I just saw one copy one by one. A group of the Miller pirates stopped on an island called Kesuk on the Grand Line to fix it. Miller went to the bar to pick up girls. Bartolomeo and the group made a fortune and went to the casino in the small town to be smart. As for Enel, he alone is driving the Ark proverbs to hunt pirates everywhere. This guy has an unspeakable stubbornness to bounty and has to surpass Miller. In the 2 days after arriving at the Grand Line, he has single-handedly eliminated several pirate groups. Nico Robin took a leisurely walk. Marine on the island did not dare to approach her even if she saw her. Miller is definitely the most ugly person in the sea. What's more, Marshal Sengoku of Naval Headquarters has issued an order, and members of Miller's gang can avoid fighting. Robin enjoys this kind of comfortable life, walking in the sun carefree, shopping, and drinking a cup of coffee in a cafe when he is bored. In the past, she was a wanted criminal by the government, and she was running around for her life, which seemed so free and at ease now. Marine can only watch. In the afternoon, the sky on the island suddenly became dark, and a huge spacecraft stopped over the island. It is the Ark's motto, and the strange thing is that there are many holes in the spacecraft. Enel was also injured. After inquiring about it, I found out that this guy went to war with several pirate groups, with one enemy 1,000. Enel was incomparably powerful, but there were many pirates stronger than him in this sea, and this time he was not as lucky as before. You idiot. Miller scolded after seeing the broken ark's motto. Enel opened his mouth and closed it again. However, the smile on his face is clearly visible. Look. This is the latest reward from the gods. You scumbags have opened their eyes to see clearly. Enel grinned suddenly, revealing a row of white fang. The reward he held high was a clear 3, followed by a series of zeros. 300 million Baileys. Bartolomeo and others were shocked. Even Miller glanced at Enel in surprise. It took 300 million Baileys for the F*K to come to the Grand Line. It was 100 million Baileys before. 300 million Baileys, the rise is indeed fast enough. Miller has to admit that Enel is really efficient. Speaking of the spaceship was damaged, we need to find a place to repair it. Nico Robin looked at the Ark's proverb and said, I know a place, the City of Seven Waters, not far from here, where there happens to be good shipbuilders, but it doesn't matter whether the spacecraft can be repaired or not. Even if it can't, it's better than us, Miller said. In fact, the Ark can still run. Enel stubbornly said, it's just a few holes, it's absolutely okay. I didn't say anything. Miller's unkind eyes swept over, and Enel shut up immediately. Anyway, let's try it first. Anyway, our next stop happens to be the capital of Seven Waters. Even if Robin didn't say a word, Miller was actually planning to go to the City of Seven Waters. He planned to build several battleships to expand the size of the pirate group. There were hundreds of people on his boat, and half of them were graceful girls. Miller also wanted to form several fleets, with Enel as the captain. There will be a second, third, and even fourth fleet. In addition, there are CP9 people lurking in the City of Seven Waters. Some of them are demon fruit power, and one of them is called Blue No, who is the fruit of Paramecia. Any object touched by the hand of a person with the door fruit ability becomes a door and can be opened, allowing you to open the door freely in any place. This is a very heaven-defying ability, and Miller has chosen it. After one day, on the side of the City of Seven Waters, in a bar in a certain block, this is a very secret alley. When a bar is opened here, guests may not come to patronize for 10.5 months. In fact, this is the secret base of CP9. If there is any information exchange, everyone will meet here. Rob Lucci, Khalifa, Kaku, and others all appeared in this bar. Everyone was silent. Lucci quietly leaned against the corner. Kaku sat in a daze by the bar, and Khalifa was drinking boringly. Bluno, a fruit-powered person whom Miller liked, was making a bartending with peace of mind. Creak. I don't know how long it has passed. The door of the bar opened, and a man with a golden armor on his face and a black cloak appeared. He is the highest officer of CP9 Spandam. It's really surprising, I didn't expect you to come in person. Lu Chi glanced at Spandam in surprise. Hasn't this boss been in Eni's lobby all the time? The disgust in the eyes of the rest of people flashed away, and everyone was not cold to this guy. Spandam is sinister and cunning, no one likes him. CP9 hearing order. Spandam straightened his chest and said solemnly, the 5 elders of the world government sent a secret instruction. In the evening, Miller and his group finally set foot in the City of Seven Waters. The arrival of Miller caused a huge panic on this island, offering a reward of 1.8 billion pirates, which is far more exaggerated than the flash flood and tsunami. Some people even plan to leave their hometowns. Don't be nervous, Mr. Bingberg, I'm not here to find fault. The head of the City of Seven Waters is called Bingberg. He is also the president of Carrera. After Miller arrived here, Bingberg was panicked and specially sent an invitation to Miller. Miller is in his office now. To be honest, my uncle has something to ask you. My little brother broke into the big basket. The spacecraft was opened a few holes. I need you to find someone to fix it. In addition, I want to customize a few battleships, the best, and they must not be worse than Marines. I will give you double the money. In terms of conversation, Miller is not at all like a 1.8 billion pirate. Shipbuilding pays back. How can there be such a kind pirate? Pirates are usually F***ked alive. We will work hard in shipbuilding. As for repairing the spacecraft, that is not our strong point. We can only say that we do our best. It is not certain whether we can repair it. Bingshan humbly said, as for money, then forget it, shipbuilding is free. Bingberg didn't dare to ask for money. He just wanted to send Miller away quickly. In fact, they didn't understand how to repair the spacecraft, but they couldn't help it. They didn't dare to refuse Miller. Ha ha ha. Mr. Bingshan is too polite. Miller patted Bingberg on the shoulder, grinned with a cigar in his mouth, and licked his thirsty eyes. He approached Bingberg and whispered, "Mr. Bingberg, why didn't your secretary, Miss Khalifa, come?" "Khalifa, she's going." Bingshan's cheeks suddenly tensed, and he instantly understood this guy's intentions. As we all know, Miller is a well-known color critic.